streamers in theory live. Although we're still going to be in the lobby for a bit more. It seems like it is actually working. Nice. We'll hopefully get started somewhat soon. There's just been problems getting a few people into the lobby, but we will go very soon. And I can start crying about my frame rate because the game is giving me 22 FPS in the menu. 23 now. Oh, it's hovering between 23 and 24 FPS, even though my graphic settings aren't particularly high. This is one of the problems with the game. I think this patch, the performance has been not ideal compared to some other patches which have been a bit better in terms of the overall performance. Are we all in? Maybe. I'm just checking now, and I think we are going to go. I'll switch screen, and whenever I do it for the first time in the stream, OBS decides to spend about a year or two getting to the loading in or getting into the game capture, but it has done that successfully, and the time is back. And we are going into the race now. Loading. Although what normally happens is that it appears to have loaded really quickly, and like the timer will start. This is what's happened in the previous races, and then it will reset the timer after like half a minute once everyone's selected their tyre allocations and stuff, which is a slightly weird bug on this game. And when will it reset the clock? It's already gone 45 seconds. This might be the longest that it's gone. We're approaching a minute now. I'll just get all the stuff up now. It's over a minute. This is like long. Like really long. If I'm being completely honest. It's been a minute and 20 seconds. Apparently there's 3 people who haven't loaded in. Have they tabbed out or something? Apparently the countdown is now happening. It's been over... Well, now we've reached 100 seconds, which is a long time. As Owen says, GRS is better than ERO, and the clock has finally started. Who will be the first out on track? After spending 2 minutes in a loading screen, they now need to load setups, and I think Mitch's car is coming out of the garage. However, it's quite a long way down the pit lane. Actually, it's not a particularly long pit lane. Pit lane here is quite short, so I think I'll go on board with Mitch. Although he's not the first, it's one of the Alfa Romeos of... which one? Still showing pit. Actually, it doesn't show the pit exit at any point. And it is Kyle Mack who is the first out on track. And if you are the first out on track, you get the privilege of me riding on board with you. I'm not sure if I'll do it. Actually, I might ride off board with you instead of riding on board. as he's currently going through the chicane right now. As unfortunately there's a few issues of mine, I'll be back in like 30 seconds. Sorry for that. And Mitch hasn't overtaken him, so Carl's positioned to get the first lap that I commentate this week. Oh my gosh, words are really hard today. DRS open, battery switched on. Going into turn 2 now. I think this is turn 3. And now into the chicane of 4 and 5. It all looks pretty nice and clean and decent for the Alfa Romeo driver, who's currently P5 in the standings. Using second gear through there, probably to get the extra rotation. As the Ferrari power car now heads into the 4th chicane, I think. Yeah. And now into the hairpin, the only not chicane real corner on the track. Cuts a bit of the grass, which is not optimal, but gets on throttle, opens DRS. What's the top speed? It is 322, so about, I think that's slightly higher than average wings. But takes the final chicane quite well, comes across the line, and it is an 11.4, which is a decent lap. Is Mitch able to do anything about that? I think he backed off from that lap and is going for another one. So we'll ride on board with Mitch, and we'll actually do an on-board, not just off-board this time. As Alfie Gamer says, Pavic for the win, possibly. Right now, 8th place and invalidated. So that would have been a turn 1 invalidation. So not ideal, to be honest. But gets out of the way of the approaching Aston Martin to avoid getting a penalty for blocking, which is probably the best thing to do. And I think Mitch has invalidated this one as well. So he's got 4.2 laps of fuel in the car. So I guess we'll give him another lap. So he's switched from the battery. Maybe that was just a recharge lap. I honestly do not know. He now goes to the final chicane. And is now coming to the line. Start his lap. Making some, and he invalidates again and has a bit of a spin. Make sure you don't drive backwards too much, otherwise the game will disqualify you. But I think I'll ride on board with the Aston Martin of Harley Davidson, who actually goes into the pits. Invalidated. A lot of invalidations so far, which is quite common at this track, if I'm being completely honest. It's quite easy to invalidate with all the blind apexes. We'll ride on board with Callum Pearce, who currently has 6 laps of fuel in the car, so is ready to multiple laps, although I'm not sure if the tyres will do that much. As the McLaren comes out of the final corner, opening the DRS. Now coming into turn 1. Goes a bit deep at the first apex, but meets the second one nicely. On the throttle, nice and early. Now going into the second chicane. Right on the edge of track limits, almost hitting the wall on exit. But now we're coming through the third chicane, which is maybe the trickiest one, because the curbs like to spit you out, and it's done pretty decently. Now into the fourth chicane, which is also kind of difficult. Done actually quite nicely there. Now into the hairpin, which is, I think it's the slowest corner. Down to second gear, on the throttle. And now opening DRS. Go down the longest straight on the track, which is some number of meters long, not exactly sure though. Seems to be running about average wings, although clips the wall of champions, but appears to not get any damage or invalidate, and that is a 112.3, which is enough for P5 right now because everyone else has invalidated. Who else? Got a debut driver here of Dom Samovic, I think, maybe. I'm not the best at pronouncing names, especially when I am slightly sick, but less sick than Luke. And also quite tired. And right now the Haas is on an outlap, having done a 14.6 as a banker. What is this offboard? It seems like Hank Schrader, that's the Steam name, is having some connection problems. So hopefully that might get fixed. Although we did get a little bit blocked, and that's Sam Hussein who's had to leave the session. I'm really not sure what the Haas is doing. Wasn't optimizing the run onto this lap too well, but takes the first chicane quite nicely. Although it doesn't use all of the road and exit, but instead opts to keep it tight. Now going into the second chicane, keeps it safely within track limits, and is now on the throttle into the third chicane. Not ideal, but at least you're getting a lap done, unlike half the grid who hasn't set a representative lap time yet. So I think that is a positive you can take from this. Now on the throttle out of the fourth chicane into the hairpin. Runs a little bit deep, but I don't think that would have cost too much time, as you can prepare the exit a bit more with the extra depth. As the Haas is now running down into the Wall of Champions, just as Harley sets the fastest lap. Cutting the two apexes quite nicely, although struggling a bit to keep it in a straight line, but it is a 1.1 second improvement on the previous lap, which is a 13.4, which is enough to put him in front of Mike Atherton, who actually just improves as I say that. Is there anyone on a lap? We've got Philip here, who, according to Alfie Gamer, is going to win this race. We'll see whether he can take provisional pole position after this lap. As he's just coming into the final corner now to start the lap. As Wojciech Tigers gets provisional pole with an 11.2, which is decently quick. As Philip runs a bit deep into whatever turn number that is. And now going to the second chicane, very close to track limits, but keeps it within, so that will be good for the lap time. And now coming into the third chicane, cutting the first apex beautifully, and getting on the throttle nice and early, using a bit of slipstream, but I'm not sure it was worth a tyre scrubbing, if I'm being completely honest. Now going into the fourth chicane, short shift from fourth to fifth at the apex, and is now going into the hairpin. Brakes for the corner, Gets to the apex nicely. The little bit tight as there's a bit of lag right now. He'll be hoping to get a small amount of slipstream from the Alpine ahead, but hopefully not get any dirty air. He cuts it quite fine. Now coming into the final corner. Does not invalidate, which is pretty useful, especially if you're cutting the track that much. And it is an 11.2, which is a 2.5% improvement, which is not enough for provisional pole, but is a pretty decent improvement. As right now, I think there might be a few others on lap. So, is Kyle Mack on a lap? No, not right now. What about Marcus? On an in lap, I think. I've riding board with, I believe this is Adam Bradshaw, who is out of fuel. Is there anyone else on the lap? I think Callum Pearce is just doing a slow lap after invalidating. Harley's on an out lap. Right on board with the man who actually really dominated race 1 in Bahrain, scoring a total of 34 points, including I think it's pole. Or was it fastest lap point? I think it's fastest lap that gives a point, and also winning the sprint as well. However, didn't do so well in China and was unable to finish the Singapore Grand Prix. He'll be looking to do a bit better this time, if I'm completely honest. Right now he's just getting a final bit of temperature in the tyres. We're looking at the steering wheel, the tyre temps are not that ideal. As he comes out of the final corner now, switches the battery back on. Is going into the first chicane. That's the first apex beautifully. And then also meets the second apex nicely as well. As Wojtek is actually retired or crashed out or something. But Harley is taking the corners very nicely so far and is half a tenth up so far. As Dom in the Haas is also retired, although I think that might be a crashing out issue. As Harley also takes this corner very nicely. Sam is having some connection problems, but Harley isn't having connection problems with the apex. Double shifting from second to fourth, which is something I haven't seen very much of since F1 2020, I believe, although Harley decides to back off. Is he going to... or is he doing the neutral trick to recharge the battery? I'm not sure what's going on. Seems a bit odd. I think he'll go for another lap, but he won't have the battery. As Hank Schrader is having continuous connection problems. And I don't really understand what Harley is doing. So I think we'll move on for the Mercedes, who gets quite close to Harley or whatever. There's apparently a lot of server problems at the moment. We're riding on board with the Mercedes right now, joining us from PlayStation land. He's now going into the full chicane right now, and a pretty decent run. Now going into the hairpin, third gear, opting not to short shift, which is the opposite strategy to Harley, who went in second and double shifted before, but it seems to be working for both of them. They both got pretty good exits. Now going through the final chicane, a little bit tentative, but otherwise strong. Coming across the line, and it's a 7/10 improvement to actually go P2, which is a very strong lap. What's Harley doing now? I think he might have recharged the battery successfully. He's now up to 83%, 86 in fact. As they're switching it on to go for the final lap. Right on board with the former championship leader. He comes into the first chicane again, cutting it nicely as there's an Alpine which will be a bit distracting from the pit exit. And now going into the second chicane. Could have cut it a bit more, but not too bad in all honesty. Now going into the third chicane, using all the track in the first apex as well as the second apex. Gets on the throttle, opens DRS. And now going through the fourth chicane, which is not the final one. Seems to be a pretty strong lap so far, and he is half a tenth up, which at the moment will not be enough for pole position. Gets on the throttle out of the hairpin, opens the rear wing, runs on the run down into the final corner. Braking just after the 100 metre, although going a bit wide of the first apex and not cutting it particularly well. And crosses the line, and it is only an 11.5, so you can just see that he didn't take the the final chicane that well. As right now everyone's just slowing down to try and get out of the way, but we're riding well with Karl Mack, who might be able to make an improvement to his time as the checkered flag has come out now. As Kyle, who's currently in P5, will be looking for an improvement if possible, although running deep into the hairpin is not what you want to do. But you'll get a small amount of slipstream from the car ahead, but also you get the dirty air and the distraction through the final chicane, so not really worth it in all honesty. But he takes the final corner very well and is across the line, and it is an 11.3, which puts him ahead of Harley. But Darius is up into second. The AI cars are just going crazy. The last of the four runners to cross the line is Philip. He gets pole position, just like Alfie Gamer would have wanted. As I think we're just waiting for the final few people to finish their in-lap, such as Harley, who is out of fuel, and David Hoy has just joined. He'll be starting P20, and the winner from China will be possibly looking to maybe win the race, or not, probably not. Not sure about the race pace. Yeah, you're in the lobby, let's get it. Yeah. Oh, you have to wait so long for Harley's car to be put in the garage. Ugh. Me crying. Sad. Why is Leapage driving? I thought you were tier 2 or something. What was so mental about that quali, Luke? What bruh? That's just some stuff about Aston Martin's blocking. I think Harley might be getting a penalty for blocking in quali, apparently. As Darius's AI decides that going alongside with Ennis is a good idea. Probably shouldn't do that because probably messes up the screen compression or whatever. It's P4 for the Alfa Romeo driver, who right now is actually P6 in the standings on 30 points, which is 27 points behind the leader at the moment. And why is everyone coming into the room I'm in and deciding now is the best time to talk just before the race starts? How many would to use the hards? To set, like, I'm not sure, but to use the hards you need to choose the harder tyre allocation. Which means that the Alpine will have 2 sets of hards and 2 sets of mediums for the race. Which will mean that you can start on hards, and if there's an early safety car you can box for mediums and then go straight back onto hards. And maybe go to the end. Although the pit lane at Canada is cheap enough that I think medium would be a better strategy than to stick it on the hards for 30 laps, because I think the tyre wear is moderately aggressive, and although the hards will be, I don't think it's Abu Dhabi high, the tyre wear, but it's not like Bahrain or Spain low. As the cars are just lining up on the grid, and we will be getting started very shortly. As the timer went, apparently there's lobby issues. I think we will need a lobby restart. Yeah, we need a restart. Although I'm not the division coordinator, so I'm not the one who officially has to call it, as it has been officially called. It's a crossplay lobby, so I need to have everyone on friends, including the PlayStation people. And the issue is that I have too many friends, so I can't invite people through EA, so I can't set up a crossplay lobby, which is a bit of a shame. You can see my team stuff. Although I'm not sure why I'd be interested. What else? What entertainment is there for me to provide you? I can provide you with this. So you can now get really bored of seeing an intermission screen for like 2 hours or something. What other funky things can I do in the 5 minutes that it takes? Not much, in all honesty. I don't think I have... Yeah, I don't have any race replays of the previous race. I could complain about the game. Game seems much more unstable after the latest patch. This might be the last time I play this game, in all honesty, because I've decided that yesterday is my last league race on this game, and that I'm going to retire from basically everything and play ACC instead, because I'm really just not bothered to play, and I think I might do the rest of the season commentating, but what's the point if there's literally going to be a lobby restart every single race? So I think I've had a major technical problem at the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think it's the last 5 races. Did we have to do a lobby restart at Singapore last week? I don't remember. Because if we did, that would like massively increase the thing, and then there would be like that one, and then there was another race I had that week which had problems. Yeah, basically every thing I'm It's easier to think of races that have required a lobby restart than it is to think of races that haven't required a lobby restart, which shows how bad the state of the game is. In all honesty, as something's fallen from my desk. Something I don't really care about, as I have now been given an invite to join the lobby. Gosh, it's 42 past already. Why do I play this game? Actually, I'm not really playing it. I'm just waiting for everyone to get in now. Not really too much I can do other than scream at my sister and her cousin for deciding now's the best time to run into the room that I'm in and decide to start going, look at this thing on my tablet, ooh, so interesting, yeah. I should probably stop driving you absolutely mad. Because right now, there's still 4 people who need to join the lobby. Who's not here? We're missing Ennis. We're missing a McLaren that isn't Hank Schrader. So Callum Pierce. We are missing the Alpine that isn't Flynn, who's the debut driver for today and isn't on my standings list. Or do you just need to scroll down? No, he's on there. Just need to scroll down. The issue is that when the standings only have space on like a quarter of the screen, you can't really see all of it. We've got it now. Has Callum just realised that the lobby went bye-bye? Also missing an Alpha Tauri. Who is that? I don't remember Arjun Racing. And I only see one Alpha Tauri on the standings. Actually, now I see the second one. And that's Marcus Carlos, who is in. So it's... Was it David Hoy? I think it was. Or has he just not selected a car? Which is a 1 penalty point penalty, as Ennis and Wojtek Tigris have not... Oh, apparently David's electricity went kaboom and is not working, so might not be driving, as Ennis has finally chosen a car. One of the other McLaren has left now. What's going on? Apparently Callum is unable to load into this lobby or something along those lines, which is a bit of a problem. And now we're back up to 18 in the lobby. And I think there's 2 people who haven't selected cars. Although this probably isn't particularly interesting. Is anything happening? Can we just start the thing? Can we add a policy of if you show up late, no racing? We need decisive leadership right now.
Well, your screen wasn't broken.
Could you two please be a bit quieter? I'm not sure if you heard that, although my mic is quite sensitive. Still need some people to... it's George Norton who's the one who's having connection problems. Okay, 19 people are in the lobby. Can we just go? And if people are in the wrong cars, just give them a penalty point. As we have been given the ready up. Someone might be getting a penalty point. Although it's more RNG is actually... What car will Logitech be put in? The Alpine, is that the correct... Actually, what car? Logitech will be very lucky that the first available car is an Alpine. So now everyone is readying up and we are about to go now for 35 laps. As unfortunately had a disconnect. And I think everyone will be going for the harder tyre allocation because you don't need those additional sets of softs if you're not doing qualifying. Because I think 2 sets, brand new sets of softs is more than you need at yeah, my microphone is quite sensitive and I'm not the sort of screamy, shouty person normally. And like, even though they're like 10 meters away or something, they're just like loud and whatever. Still waiting for players. I can see a ghosted Red Bull on the grid, which is not optimal. I'm not sure. Taking a bit of time to load in. Okay, the timer has started, so I think we will be going. As I still see a ghosted Red Bull on the grid, which I think is Mitch. Not certain though. Or it might be Mike Atherton. As we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And away we go for the Canadian Grand Prix, as it seems like it's a very good start from one of the Alfa Romeos, although he gets boxed in. But the other Alfa Romeo of Karl Mack is going to go down the inside and try and force Adam Bradshaw off as he cuts back alongside. And that causes a spin for the Mercedes driver as he drops back down the field. However, Filip Pavic has gotten a very good start and is now leading the Grand Prix and is in first place, as there's yellow flags further back, as it seems like there's been a few incidents. But we'll go back and board with the Mercedes of Adam Bradshaw, who's probably going to be trying to improve position as Marcus Carlos has a spin in the background, as it seems like they're almost going 3 wide, but they end up backing out. Although Lucas Rudd is lacking a front wing and will likely be heading into the pits, and you'll need to be careful to make sure he doesn't take anyone out on pit entry, which is a pretty easy thing to do at Canada. Although, speaking about getting a strong start, it seems like Kyle Mack has been able to overtake Philip right now. And I'll check the tyres to see if that might explain anything, as Lucas Rudds has unfortunately sped into the pit lane and got a penalty. And we can see that Mitch, as usual, has started on the softs and is up an enormous number of positions. Although the softs will start to go off in not too long, they seem to be very quick now, as Mitch always seems to make softs work at the start of the race, which is the one thing I like about him, is that he goes for the unconventional strategies, as Kyle Mack has been able to pull out of DRS from Jeff behind. And Harley Davidson, after disappointing qualifying, is currently P3 and looking to challenge for P2 as he goes around the outside of the hairpin and thinks about going for a switchback, and I think it might be successful. So we'll ride on board with Wojtek right now, and it does seem like Harley has been able to get in front of Philip, although at what cost, because he's now 1.5 seconds behind Kyle, and that means out of DRS unless he can close up within the next few sectors when DRS gets enabled, as Kyle sets the fastest lap at the front of the field right now. And it seems like Philip, after getting a good start, is now really struggling to get those cards into a good operating window, as there are some position swaps further back, as unfortunately there are a few disconnects in the lobby at the moment. We are causing a bit of carnage with their ghosted nature, but Mitch Snape, currently P6, looking to improve, and I think he will improve as Ennis yeets it into a barrier, and that will give Mitch a bunch of clean air, and our race winner from Singapore is not looking so well at the moment. But Mitch, who right now currently only has 8 points in total, he's going to more than double that if he's able to finish here, although he has used basically all his battery and is on the softs, which will wear out kinda quick, as it seems like Oliver Flynn has been able to get past Mike Atherton, as Harley's now able to set the fastest lap. And I said he was a second and a half behind, now he's just half a second behind, as Philip's got a 5-second penalty for corner cutting, which is not ideal, because if it's a 5 second it will probably get served in the pit, so it can't be removed post-race if it was an unfair penalty, which is a possibility at this track, given how you can just slide across the corner, as unfortunately he's out of the race. I honestly do not know what went on there. This car just seems to be completely stranded, and that's brought out a virtual safety car, because that is an interesting crash. How do you lose a wheel there? I honestly don't get it. Apparently death went on, as DRS is now enabled, and Harley's going to have it and is going to go around the outside of Karl Mack, but opts to back off. He got spun and then got collected, so that is very unfortunate. Because I've also noticed that ghosting is less reliable on this latest patch. 3 penalties, Mitch is up to P4. Has he already gotten a penalty? Although to be fair, I was kind of expecting half the grid to have a penalty by this point, as right now Callum Pearce is still stuck behind some ghost cars. Is he also a ghost car? I think we're watching 3 ghosted cars battle each other, as Dom Sanovic has also picked up a time penalty for track limits. But the Alfa Romeo of Darius, as well as the Williams of Larry Espelto, are both on the back of Mitch right now. We've got another retirement, as seems like a big one, as Jeff would say. or riding ball with Ennis, and it seems like he just lost throttle or lost traction on throttle, and it's another virtual safety car. We've got a lot of virtuals and very few full safety cars, and Mitch is going to use this as the opportunity to box off his softs and get a new front wing, and he's gone for hards. So I'm not sure if he'll be taking them to the end. However, the pit lane's actually not too long here, so he's not that far off the back, and he has new tyres. Actually, he's in the Red Bull, so he's got a long way to drive down. So maybe the pit lane is a bit longer than I first made it out to seem like. But Harley is now leading the race after a disappointing quali. Will he be able to just drive off in the race? As a virtual safety car is still out. Will it be ending soon? Still yellow flags around the track. What's going on with the Delta? As we're going into the final corner now, and the virtual safety car is in, and it seems like Harley's judged this quite well, as he's been able to build up a small gap to Karl Mack. Now, whether he'll be able to pull away, I'm not sure, but I'll check on the batteries, and Harley is about 7, more like 5% higher. But Darius in the Alfa Romeo, instead of looking backward, actually they're both looking forwards, but it seems like the momentum is more with Darius than it is with Kyle. Although the leaders are about 6 seconds or so ahead of these guys after about 6 laps, so actually I think the momentum is just with Harley, to be completely honest, as he's already broken out of DRS of Kyle Mack. Yeah, the gap's 1.2 seconds. Unless there's some divine intervention, it seems like Harley is right now the favourite to win this race, as he's already built up over 1 second gap in the past lap, so actually not over, almost a second, and he's now over 5 seconds ahead of P3, 7 seconds ahead of P4, 8 seconds ahead of P5, 11 P6, 12, already built up a pit stop to P8, I think. Yeah, 18 and I think a pit stop's about 17 to 18 seconds here, although I'm not exactly certain. Right now, Darius is still hanging on within DRS of Laruccio, who is, if I check the standings, Larry Espelto. He raced in Singapore, but unfortunately did not finish, as Mitch has gotten a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. And Sam is back in the lobby. I'll probably be able to drive for another few laps before the game decides to yeet the Ferrari out of Canada and into somewhere. Though Darius is now out of battery, so I think he might drop out after this lap. But he does take the final chicane quite well. As he's actually cut the first corner, which has given him a time penalty for multiple warnings, which is not what you want. I think he's pushing, but struggling to keep up. Though he's within DRS for one more detection point, it's a very tricky traction zone that's coming up, where he has the opportunity to lose some time, as Sam's unfortunately had another disconnect, although it seems like Darius is able to hold within DRS quite well for now, as Mitch has another 3-second time penalty, and at this rate he might get disqualified by the game for getting 30 seconds, but you can see as well that Lowry is also low on battery as the red light was flashing, and it seems like Darius was also within DRS at the detection point, so he'll have it for this straight, but he's 1.2 seconds behind, so the Williams driver might have broken out of DRS from the car behind and also be leaping his way into the DRS of Wojtek Tigris ahead, as they're now going into turn 1, as Darius has had a pretty big mistake and has dropped off half a second, and Adam Bradshaw is now within striking range as Callum Pearce is the latest victim of the track limits at Canada. As the race is beginning to settle down, although there is a battle further back between a ghost car and Marcus Carlos, who is currently P12, although I think, given that there's likely to be a bit more stuff going on, he might be on for points. But Ennis right now... No, it's the wrong person. Also wrong person. Ennis is not having the best of times at the moment, and is currently behind Mitch Snape, as they're both coming up to the Ghost of Car Hank Schrader. And I think Mitch is going to opt to wait behind and get DRS. And now he goes through him. That's the clever driving we expect to see from Mitch. As Ennis might try and think about going for a move on Mitch, although how is the AI car so quick on the straights? That is an interesting question. Although Mitch is out of battery, so I think that will be an invitation for Ennis to join up. However, Lowry is right now within striking distance of Wojtek on the medium tyres. However, the hards on the Alpine will start to phase in as the race goes on, and also the Williams driver is a bit deficient in the energy recovery system storage energy thing. Yeah, very deficient. I think the Alpine's just been saving it for the entire race, although the Williams will have DRS, which will put the Alpine under pressure and force Carhead to use it as Wojtek runs wide, gets a warning, track limp results in a penalty. And is that a broken wing? The wing visually looks intact, although that was a really big impact, so it is likely to get damage, as unfortunately it seems like Oliver Flynn has had an even worse encounter with the Wall of Champions and is now going to have to do an entire lap without a front wing, which is pain. Right now, Lowry, he hasn't got a point on the board yet. He's currently on track for P4, maybe even P3, and is going to be challenging for the positions on the podium. And we'll go back to an onboard camera. He's getting on the throttle, using the traction control as a clutch. Crutch, not a clutch. Although you could argue it is a bit like a clutch. I should probably stop doing bad puns. Because right now the Williams is unable to go for a move. He's probably just trying to put the Alpine ahead under a bit of pressure into making another mistake, which will possibly have bigger consequences, as it seems like there's a fairly tight-ish battle further back. As Marcus Carlos is using a bit of battery to try and get past Mike Averton, but isn't able to go for it yet, but also doesn't get the best of runners. Mitch gets another 3-second time penalty, as Oliver Flynn is in the pits to replace that wing, which is not too surprising, if I'm being completely honest, as Rog has retired from the session and brought out the full safety car. How do you do that on a straight? Also, Marcus Carlos has gotten a time penalty for a severe collision. But I think the collision involving Wojtek might have had something to do with Larry Uspelto. But I think everyone will be into the pits to probably box for hard. Mediums, I'm not sure they'll make it to the end. I honestly do not remember. Why is Harley going for mediums? Why? He starts on mediums, right? Why is he going for mediums again? You're doing medium soft. I guess it might work at Canada. You'll be a second lap quicker because your compounds are better. Overall, the wear should be roughly equal. I guess it's about break even as to whether medium soft or just taking hard to the end is better. But the issue is that if there's like a safety car at lap 22, either you have to box for the hards and get put at the back, and your tyres aren't that much newer. You can't go for softs because they'll die. And then also the what's it called? The mediums have already used both of your sets of mediums, so you are basically screwed if a safety car comes out at the wrong time. Unless he started on the hards and went to mediums. But I don't think that's what happened. I'm pretty sure he started on medium and went to medium. Although Canada is one of the cheapest, if not the cheapest pit lane. There'll probably be enough carnage that when he boxes, he won't lose too many positions. He's probably just hoping that with the softer rubber, he can just pull away at the start. Someone I haven't mentioned at all this race is Lucas Rudd, who's currently in final place, but with the safety car, going to be brought right back up. We'll do a quick check of the penalties, as Mitch currently has 15 seconds and is halfway to a disqualification right now. And he's not even halfway through the race. That would be a bit saddening if Mitch the GOAT got a disqualification for running off track 30 times in an entire race. Just a bit under once a lap. And I guess it is possible to go once a lap, because that's what most people did in qualifying actually. But in the race you tend to settle into a rhythm and not get track limits and that sort of stuff. I hope Lucas will catch up within the final sector so the safety car can come in this lap. Otherwise, we aren't going to have another boring lap under a safety car, and that will make me sad. Right now, Vapage is glitching about a lot. I'm not sure if the safety car will be in this lap, although there's always a possibility of the game deciding to call it in like literally right now, as it does it right on cue. And Lucas Rudd will probably be the only one with warm tyres. Right now, Harley's just backing off a bit so he can probably plant it before the final corner. I think that's what he's done. Although Kyle has got an even better restart as Lapage gets 3-second time penalty out of the final corner. But I think Harley is able to maintain P1 going into turn 1, and that means that he'll have clean air to attempt to pull away out of Kyle Mack. As Mike Atherton is, I think he was swapping positions with Mitch there, as Adam Bradshaw has now gotten a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. As the disconnected car of Hank Schrader is in P10 right now, though in old hards. As unfortunately there's a spin for Oliver Flynn, and that will send him right to the back of the pack, so not ideal. As right now all the ghosted disconnected cars are currently being shuffled back down the field. However, Darius, who albeit has a 3-second time penalty, is heaping tons of pressure onto the Williams ahead. Although Bradshaw, who is also right behind on the mediums, is putting on a lot of pressure as well, as they seem to all be dumping their battery on this lap. I'll just check. The Mercedes has a lot more than Darius. He used all of his deployment, as well as the Williams, who is also kinda low, but Harley sets the fastest lap in this restart and has pulled about a second since starting the lap. And we'll be hoping to continue to do that and eventually, possibly, win the race after you box for softs at the end, which I think is the strategy plan. Because right now, it's nose to tail in the battle for P3. Although Bradshaw maybe tapped the wall a bit there. Not entirely sure though, but his wing seems to have maintained integrity as he's not getting heaps of understeer. And we'll try and close up to the cars ahead in the hairpin. Although he brakes a bit early and then cuts a bit of the grass and does not get the best exit. I think this is a bit of battery. I wonder whether he's going to go for a move, but I think that might be more to defend. From leapage behind, who is currently P6. Although they all have a 3-second time penalty, as DRS is now enabled. However, Darius is not waiting for DRS and he's going straight for the move down the inside of Lowry, who is able to defend the position for now, although I think he'll struggle when DRS is enabled. Speaking of DRS, Harley's been able to pull out of the DRS window Kyle, though Kyle's sticking quite well considering that the hards are not the best compound here. But going further back, Kyle's teammate is threatening the Williams to go with the move. Although if he is out of battery, I think he'll send it down into the 40k, although he backs out last minute to wait for the DRS down the double detection point. And he'll probably just try and make a move using the aid of that as they both run deep into the final corner. As Adam Bradshaw's actually going for a move on Darius and gets a much better exit on the medium tyres and is ahead already before the DRS even opens. And he also has a lot more battery than everyone else around him. So the Mercedes is trying to make moves on the mediums, but I'm not sure whether the mediums will make it to the end, but there is the possibility of another safety car later on. And you can just force the tyres to go to the end, and also if you box for softs at the end, you are going to be amazingly fast, as Mike Atherton has picked up a 5-second time penalty for speeding into the pit lane. And he's also gone for softs, which is an interesting strategy call when you're this far out from the end. But right now Adam Bradshaw seems to be pulling away from Lowry and Darius, who seem to be struggling a bit right now on the hard tyres. And they're also struggling a bit on the battery front, although Bradshaw has used most of his battery to try and pull out, and he's unsuccessful of breaking the DRS this lap, as the Williams behind was within the 1 second detection point and will get 2 doses of DRS as a result. Although they are over 6 seconds behind Harley, so this will be interesting to see whether Harley is able to pull a pit stop before boxing for softs at the end of the race, which will be interesting if he has to fight back through the field. Although it seems like Darius has made a mistake which has allowed Lapage to get through from the Alfa Romeo. But it seems like Lowry has also just dropped out of DRS now and will not be able to stay within. So we're right on board with Marcus Carlos, who is right on the back of Ennis. And they're both within DRS of each other, and Stain Lagrange, who is currently P8 in the Ferrari, although at the current rate will get promoted up a few positions due to the penalties ahead as Mitch gets another track limit penalty. He's currently in P7. Actually in view, but I think he's got 18 seconds now. Which means that he's getting close to that disqualification. If he gets all he needs, as also Ennis has gotten past Stain Lagrange, as Darius has now gotten, I think that's the second time penalty for track limits, as Mitch is now 60% of the way to a disqualification for track limits. It seems like Stain's just dropping like a rock on the hard compound of tyres, although you'd expect that 7 laps in. The two compounds should be reaching parity, as that appears to be roughly what's happening at the front, or either that or Harley's just dropping off, because Bradshaw has been closing the gap very quickly over the past few laps, and it seems like the Mercedes right now is the fastest car on track. And we'll go back and forth with Ennis, who right now is right on the back of Mitch, who gets another 3-second time penalty, as well as Callum Pearce. And I think Ennis is going to go for it here. He was behind at the detection point, so he'll get DRS regardless, using 4th gear, which is the opposite of Hartley, who was going from 2nd to 4th. And Ennis is able to get ahead of Mitch even before the DRS is open, and then the Mercedes will just pull away with the aid of the drag reduction system, as it also seems like Marcus Carlos is fighting for position with Stain Lagrange, who has been able to get ahead of the AlphaTauri at the moment. As what else is happening? Lapage is within DRS of Maurizio, who is currently P4. Although he does get a massive snap of oversteer, which will most likely drop him out by the detection point, which will be coming up after this corner, as Bradshaw has gotten another 3-second time penalty, and that is just as he was beginning to drop off the starting to drop off the back of Kyle. So this is maybe not going into his hands as much as I said it was last time, but Ennis is now within DRS of Darius, although I don't think he'll have the battery to threaten him for the position this lap. Although he'll be looking to go for a move next lap most likely. He has a tiny battery advantage of like a % or 2. It's not that significant, and he'll be hoping to use the DRS as Darius has now gotten another 3-second time penalty for track limits. And Marcus Carlos as well is quite close behind Stain Lagrange, however will not be able to challenge for the position this lap, as right now Harley, who is P1, is 4 seconds ahead of Kyle Mack, and I think he would have hoped to pull out a bit more, if I'm being completely honest, with the softer compound of tyre, and the mediums will start to wear away at this point. And also I'll check on the battery, and right now Kyle has a bit more, so I think Kyle might be able to win this when Harley needs to box near the end of the race onto the soft compounds of tyres, but Stain Lagrange is now right up on the back of Mitch Snape, who is struggling right now in 17-lap-old cars as he cuts the corner yet again. I think the Ferrari will decide to hold back the hairpin and then go for it down the big long straight. And he might be followed by Marcus Carlos, although it seems like there's a small tap from behind. And that has made Marcus Carlos lose about 2 seconds, and it's now propelled Lucas Rudd into P10 right behind Stain, although the Ferrari is not that close to the back of Mitch, so I think Mitch will be staying ahead for one more lap at this current rate, as Carl's now got a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. It seems like Harley's right now driving the strongest out of everyone. However, he does have to box at the end, but Stain is now right on the back of Lucas Rudd, so the Williams has been able to get ahead. And the Ferrari drivers, Callum Pearce now picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. I think Lucas Rudd, he typically runs quite low wings, might be trying to get past Mitch as I think that was another penalty for Ennis. And at this point in the race, penalties are really starting to add up. As Lucas is right on the back of Mitch at the apex of the hairpin. However, Mitch has gotten a really strong exit, and that means that he's able to pull away a bit going into the final chicane and the wall of champions. As Lucas is just having to sit behind a bit longer, but I think he might be going for a move now as he's using the battery, and you see the red light of Mitch flashing, and he brakes way late into turn 1, tries to go around the outside but runs a bit deep, and Mitch will be able to fight back around the outside in the next turn, as it seems like Lepage has been able to overtake both Stain and Marcus Carlos, who have had a bit of an incident as Callum Pearce has come into the pit for a set of softs. As Lucas Fudd remains behind Mitch for another lap, although I think he'll be trying to get past along the straight. As Lucas opens DRS and again sees Mitch's red light flashing, so he knows he's got a significant battery advantage. He's now coming up to the back of the Red Bull into the hairpin, although he's not particularly close. And I think Mitch's exits have been quite strong, as it seems like Oliver Flynn has been the latest victim of that traction zone, although it seems like no safety car is out right now. Lucas Rudd once again is right on the back of Mitch as they run through the final corner in the Wall of Champions, and it seems like Mitch has gotten a strong enough exit to stay in front, as Darius has picked up yet another penalty for track limits, so not the best of races for the Irish driver, as both Mitch and Lucas get a track limit at the same point, which is kind of funny if you think about it, just watching them both simultaneously drive off. And also right now Harley, I think he still needs to box onto soft, and he's only got a 5-second advantage to Kyle, which I really think is not enough if he's planning on winning this race, even with unless the softs are really quick, which they might be. And also we have to factor in the penalties, but otherwise he might not be winning. But right now we have a 3-car DRS train behind Mitch Snape, as they're trying to go for the move. Mitch gets an absolute tank slap out of the Wall of Champions, and I think that will allow Lucas Rudd to get past and maybe drive off into the distance, as Lepage also thinks about sending it but backs off as he's trying to go for a switchback into the next corner, but he's unable to make it work as he's going through the second chicane, and you'll be seeing the red light flashing on the back of Mitch, so he knows he has a lot more battery. There's a little bit of lag, but he's still on the back of Mitch, and I think Mitch is already out of DRS and Lucas Rudd. So that just shows you how much Mitch was holding them up, as we're getting a horrible camera angle. We'll try and change cars to Mitch, as Lepage has had a spin. At least he's kept out of the wall, as Mike Averton's got a penalty. Although right now, as Harley comes into the pits for a set of softs, presumably, and yes, it is for a set of softs, and the car's released, and he'll have 8 laps to try and close down to within the 3-second window of Kyle Mack, who's currently leading this race, as Harley might even be dumped behind Ennis, although it will be quite tight going into whatever turn it is, as they're going side by side. And I think Harley is able to get ahead, and the tyre warm-up on the C5 softs is actually not that bad, in all honesty. They'll already be at like 75, 76 degrees, and the softs at Canada, when they're cold, they actually don't feel too bad. And I think he'll be trying to get past Darius down the main straight with the additional grip and traction out of the final corner. that he's going to have, as Darius has gotten a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. And I think Harley might be able to challenge going into the hairpin with the additional grip. Although what he does is he makes Zolf break a bit late and go a bit deep. And he's gotten a really good exit, and he's deciding to save the battery, and I think there's nothing that Darius is going to be able to do with the DRS and the battery advantage, as well as the slipstream advantage that Harley will have. And Harley will now have to set chase to the leaders in front, as right now the gap between him and Kyle is about 9 seconds, and he's got 7 laps to close within 3 seconds, so he needs to be gaining an average of a second a lap, which I think is a possibility on the soft tyres, because they are pretty quick around here. As right now, one rule with Harley is he's basically doing a qualifying hot lap, and I think there is even a possibility he'll get inside the DRS of Levizio by the detection point, and that does actually seem quite likely, as he's already on the bubble of being a second and have so much more grip through this corner compared to 15-lap-old cars, and he is within the DRS detection point, so he might be going for a move down into turn 1 or even the Wall of Champions corner at this rate, if I'm being completely honest, as Lapage has now picked up a 3-second time penalty due to multiple warnings. As Harley right now, I think he's just going to save a bit of battery with DRS and probably go for the move into turn 1, as he's closing in all the time down the straight with DRS and slipstream, and is carrying so much more speed, and I think he will be going for the move now as he flicks on the battery, as he sets the fastest lap of a 1:12.3, going into turn 1, precision on the apex, as he's now laying chase to the Mercedes ahead of Adam Bradshaw, who makes a pretty big mistake on exit, and I think Harley might even be wanting to get past before the hairpin at this rate, given how quickly he's catching, and he might even be able to pass Karl Mack for the lead, as it seems like the brand new softs have alien-like pace at this track. Or maybe it's just that everyone else's tyres are 16 laps old, that might be it. But whatever the reason, he's got so much more grip than everyone else now. And 2 laps ago, I said he needed to close in an average of a second a lap. Guess what? He's closed in 2 seconds a lap average, and only has 2 more seconds to close in until he is going to be overall P1 post penalties. Although I suspect that he will be trying to also take the win on track in case the penalty does get removed, although it's Canada, so it is unlikely that penalties will get removed, as there aren't really any glitchy corners, although Bradshaw is going to try and stick within DRS, try and get towed along, although I think he'll probably get dropped this lap with this traction zone. Yeah. And we'll continue to ride on board. Harley will ride off board, because he's really devouring that gap, which was half a second big at the start of this lap, as all he needs to do is gain like a tenth or 2 each sector, and then he'll be within penalty range of Carl as well. Carl's also using the battery, probably to try and pressure Harley into making a mistake, although he hasn't made one yet, and he's gained roughly a second so far this lap, although he will not have DRS coming out of the hairpin. Although he has closed in another 2/10 on traction, it shows the massive advantage that these brand new softs have compared to the 17-lap-old hards, although the tyre advantage will be slowly wearing down. Although by the end of the race, the softs should still be the fastest compound, and Harley has shown his pace so far, as he's gained over a second this lap, and he's got 4 laps left to gain 4 seconds if he wants to win this race on track, which he will need to do if he does pick up a 3-second penalty, which at this point seems unlikely. Well, it's always nice to win things on track through penalties, as he's already right on the bubble of the 3-second window right now, going through the chicane, and the gap is 3.0 seconds, and it's now dipped into the 2.9 second region now, as he's munching into that gap very quickly. But also Lucas Rad is now within DRS of Ennis. Ahead. Is Mitch trying to go to the end on these hards? He might be. That's an interesting strategy. After got some like lap 4 or 5 or something. Maybe we could ask him how the tyres are going. But right now Lucas Vard is the only actually staying advantage also in DRS, but one of them has like 24 seconds of penalties, the other has 0. Yeah, 24 seconds on Mitch, so not as Lucas spins and breaks his front wing at the Wall of Champions as he's struggling to get the car reversed back around, as Callum Pearce has now picked up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. And this puts him right behind Stain Lagrange as well, as Mitch Snape will get back past Mitch Snape on penalties, and also Marcus Carlos is now within penalty range. But Harley, who's almost a lap ahead of these guys, is on the bubble of closing to within DRS of Kyle after six quick laps. Came out 9 seconds behind, now he's 1 second behind. And will get DRS next time they go through the detection point at this rate. And although I doubted this strategy, Harley has been able to pull it off, which I think is just testament to how strong new tyres and the softs can be at this track. Although I bet if he was on 10 lap old softs, I would be talking about the opposite story. But that's not what we're doing, and right now the pace of the Aston Martin is absolutely electric as they head through the chicane, as Mitch is now 27 seconds of penalties and is now 1 time penalty away from being disqualified, as he's still got 2 and a bit laps to go, I think. So Mitch will need to be careful, although it would be a bit funny to see someone get disqualified. Although I think Harley is going to be looking to go for a move on Carl this lap, as Carl has a big mistake. And I'm not sure who was ahead at the detection point, but I suspect that I think Harley was ahead, which means that Kyle will be the one with DRS, so he might be able to challenge going into the final chicane. And it is Carl who will have DRS, although Harley's brand new tyres have so much more grip that he's just pulled away on the exit, and there's really nothing that Carl's able to do at this point, other than see the Aston Martin drive off into the distance, as I suspect the hards are starting to wear out a bit. And the mediums on some of the other cars still seem to be holding up fine, as Maurizio is currently on track for a podium, with the old hard should be better than the mediums at this point, as Carl gets another 3 seconds. Not ideal. But right now the Williams, just by virtue of not getting a penalty, will be standing on the podium this race, and might be even able to get to their free penalty depending on how powerful the DRS is. Although I think it's going to be hard for the Williams to close in, given that he doesn't have a Harley tyre advantage. So, and he's also out of DRS. Ride back and board with Harley, who is 1 chicane away from winning the Canadian Grand Prix, as Leipzig has binned it. As now Harley Davidson comes across the line to win the Canadian Grand Prix, and that will do wonders for his championship, given that Ennis... Where's Ennis? Ennis is in P6, so I think that will fire him right back into championship contention after leading the race. Round 1. He now gains back 15 points on Ennis, which will put him only 4 points off the championship lead, I believe. And with David and Arjun unable to race this time round, that will launch him to a good place going into the Belgian Grand Prix next week, as Mitch has fortunately avoided getting a disqualification for too many penalties. Although 27 seconds is really not what you want in terms of penalties, as Callum Pearce crosses the line in a very distant P11. Hank Trader, who's been disconnected, finishes P11 after penalties. It's quite impressive for an AI car, as all the finishers have now finished the race. And I think I'll try and get them to do interviews after I've got the race results down. So we're just loading in now. This is a very long loading screen. This is an extremely long loading screen. Why is the loading screen taking such a long time? Okay. Finally. Here's your list of the race results. And now we're going to race director. All the incidents. This one's quite long. There we go. And here's the pit stops. And I will now see if any of them want any of the podium setters want an interview. Lowry, who else? Kyle, and also there was Harley. I'll send them. Actually, two of them already in the. Harley, well done in that race win.
Oh. Hello, thanks.
Yeah, I doubted that your strategy would have worked, but it worked out.
Being honest, I didn't make that strategy, my teammate did, but I'm glad he made it.
I thought that under safety car, that going for hard would have been the best choice.
Fresh off soft up and worked and getting no penalties out really did help with
Although it was
anything
really
that could have
tight,
happened.
though.
Yeah, I did nearly spin it when overtaking a Mac or car. Yeah, I nearly lost it there,
But I guess you take the win with fastest lap, which is 26 points, which I think you got the fastest lap at least.
yeah, I think I did.
Yeah, so I think that puts you 3 points behind Ennis in the standings. So after two pretty bad rounds, you're probably happy to be back to winning form.
Yeah, they were pretty bad rounds the last two.
Yeah. Now on to Kyle. Did you think that you would have been able to hold him off?
Well, so the minute he pit, I got yellow wing damage. So if I didn't get my other 3-second penalty near the end, and if I had full wing, I think I could have held him off like the 7 seconds he had to catch up.
Yeah, he was gaining quite quick.
Yeah, it was like 2 seconds, around like 2 seconds.
Yeah, it was 2 seconds a lap when the tyres were new, although it did gradually get lower.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
But
I'll still take it anyway.
Yeah.
I think Alfa Romeo got the most points over the weekend, I think. And that's just extending our constructors again, which is always good.
Yeah. Going into the race, you were leading the constructors by 9 points, and I think you would have extended it further because Aston Martin, who Harley drives for, is quite far behind right now, so they don't seem to be in control.
And also his teammate DNF'd. So me and my
I
teammate
haven't had
got,
a teammate for the last. I haven't had a teammate for the last 3 rounds, so
yeah, well,
it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Race is over. I assume you're both happy with the points you got.
I was happy it's over. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll close up the interview there. Everyone, thank you for listening or watching. It's not a podcast. We've got the Belgian Grand Prix. I think it's next weekend, unless it's been rescheduled. Yes, it is next weekend. No, not next week, not weekend. 7 days.
Got me like
19th of December, Monday, yes.
Wow.
Belgian Grand Prix. See you